All right. Hello, everybody. Here we are. It took a second longer, but we finally made it, and we know how it is. I'm here today, so ladies, take a second longer. I've got today with me Nathan. You already know him.
Hello.
It's like his 500th stream or so here. And we're going to talk about a lot of fantastic things. And yeah. Nathan, who are you? Why are you here?
Hello. I'm Nathan. I'm a writer and researcher for What About It. I've studied aerospace engineering. I've done a few of these streams now. And yeah, there's been a ton of stuff that has happened. And we'll try and get through all of it in a reasonable amount of time. But there is a lot. You can already kind of see a little bit on screen now. But
And
yeah.
we have a surprise guest. You can't see him, but he's there, and his name is Jordan. Hello, Jordan.
Hello, how are you all?
We're fantastic. I'm so glad that you can join because Jordan actually has a little bit of a bug. I mean, he's in Texas. Felix is here at the Cape, and still, like, both got the same bug. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
Discording is dangerous.
It's very dangerous. But yeah, this is probably my 5th stream as opposed to Nathan's 500th, he said, I think.
Yeah.
It's been a couple.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right.
And here we are. We already have the stream open. So they said, what do we see here? What is going on there?
So there's been quite a bit of developments. As you can see, they're working on the tower quite a bit, and it has grown. So just last night or night before last, they stacked the first tower section, and then last night they rolled tower section 2 over to the launch site. And we're going to be talking about that a bit more later. But right now, we are actually going to be covering another topic. We're going to be covering the booster because it has also been doing quite a bit. And the reason we're covering it is because SpaceX has quite a few closures. Basically, from now to the 19th, they have closures set. Now, the closures aren't necessarily a guarantee of anything happening, but having this many basically means SpaceX is going to be doing plans on doing a lot of testing and plans on doing a lot of work. So
And wait a second, do I get that right? So we have these closures now, and they are. Do we have like an overpressure notice or anything that could let us like lead to, hey, we gotta have a static fire or something like that? Do we have something like that yet?
not quite yet. Those usually come out the roughly the day before, like in the evening. So whenever we get that, we'll know for a fact it's basically the next day or like very soon after that, within about 24 hours or so. So those come very last minute. The road closures basically tell us a little bit before. So if we got an overpressure notice today, then we would know that there'd be one tomorrow. And I mean, it's still fairly early in the day. We could very well get one, especially considering all of the testing that SpaceX has been doing today, which we can actually move over to now because we have a bunch of
Give me one more
footage to get
second.
through.
Give me
Okay,
one more second.
okay,
So
one more
what I
second.
what I saw is we have these road closures from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. Did we ever have like a static fire or a spin prime test at night?
Uh, at night, not. Wait, have we?
I don't know.
Because they are
I think
quite.
we
They are
have. I
quite
think we have
late.
once or
Yeah,
twice.
yeah. I think you're right. Because I
And
do
they
feel like I recall that.
and they and they rolled both tower segments out like in the early mornings or the night as well, or
Middle of the night.
yeah. So
Yeah.
can that be a sign that they just stack it? Because I remember John was out there, our photographer, and he
Yeah.
wanted to film it and get it done. And then he rushed out of bed and he drove down to Starbase, and they were all, oh, that was for the lifting, exactly. And
Yeah.
then most of it was already done because they're SpaceX. They're so
Yeah.
fast.
They have done a ton of work. In a very short amount of time. I mean, we've been talking about it for a little bit, how they've been doing a ton of work on these tower segments beforehand,
Yeah.
so they can just throw them together like Lego pieces. It's very similar to the way, like, if you remember the parking garage building, all of
Yeah.
those sections were basically prefabricated, and SpaceX was able to throw up that entire massive structure in like a month and a half. And it's a very similar idea for the tower segments. Of course, it's a bit more complicated than that. And we do know that they have all the other components, but right now we know the main goal is to get it height wise stacked. So even if it's done quickly for the height, they might not have like the uh, arms on just yet, although we have seen those there over at the port right now, and the ship quick disconnect, which we have not seen. Uh, so we're kind of curious what's going on with that. But yeah,
Okay, now you wanted to talk about the tank farm, right?
yes. So there has been a ton of activity prepping for the static fire, essentially. So SpaceX wants to test all the equipment post launch, as well as all the new equipment, because as many of you probably remember, they have been completely upgrading the tank farm. They had the vertical tanks, which had turned out to not be the best, and they ripped them all out and have been replacing that and ripping up infrastructure, putting new stuff in, standard SpaceX stuff, get rid of the old, build the new. And they've been testing it basically basically almost 24/7 since yesterday.
Yeah.
They have been using these road closures, and you can see just how much activity is going on throughout the tank farm. And this was not used just for any reason, it was used to fill the booster. You can see a bit of frost in this picture here, actually. Not quite as much frost as usual, so we're thinking they might not have like fully sub chilled it, because we also didn't see.
Subchilled.
Uh, yeah, I'm
What
pretty
does
sure
that
I'm
mean?
pretty sure that's the proper term. Which basically means it's cold, it's cryogenic, but it's not quite super cold, essentially, because what they want for the propellants is specifically to get them as cold as possible, because the colder something is, the more of it you can pack into, oh, sorry, the more of it you can pack into a space. So essentially what SpaceX does for Starship and Falcon 9 is they get it down to just a few degrees above its freezing point. But to keep something liquid, such as liquid oxygen or liquid methane, it doesn't need to be that cold. It does need to be cold comparatively to like water or something to be a
Yeah, give
liquid,
me.
but not that cold. Okay. I think Steph will be right back. She's got to do some stuff. But yeah, they have been doing a ton of work around the booster, and actually, just a couple hours ago. So we're getting that footage now. So we don't have access to it on this roundup, but we are getting that footage now. They actually performed a spin prime test, and so what that essentially is SpaceX runs these fluids through the pre-burner of the um, of the engines and to essentially cool them down to make sure all the engines can flow fluids properly and they're not going to get stuck and jammed and not work. And this is essentially the last test they do before a full static fire. So the static fire, it appeared to be successful. It's very hard to tell, especially for spin primes without like having actual data from SpaceX. But all signs point to it being successful, and considering they haven't canceled any of the road closures, it's likely they will be performing a static fire very soon. So look forward to some flames. That'll be fun.
Yeah. Do you think they will do a full static fire, or I mean, what kind of static fires do they do? Like,
I did not mean to click next. So they will probably perform a full static fire. The current testing regime for a booster is typically like roughly 2 full wet dress, or yeah, I believe it's wet dress rehearsals where they
fill it all
basically,
up.
yeah, well, they fill the entire booster to the
Yeah.
top, and then they'll put the engines on, and then they'll do a full static fire. And if there's a malfunction, say in one of the engines, they might perform another static fire later to make sure that engine that might not have been working or that they had to replace works. But that won't be, most of the time at least, that won't be the entire 33 engines lighting. That'll just be whatever engines malfunctioned. So yeah, this is going to be full flames, uh, full power, just blasting down.
Like how many seconds? 3, 5, 7,
Yeah,
9?
it's a couple seconds. They don't want to do it for too long because the launch pad is not exactly built for that. If
And
they
we
wanted
don't
to
want to
do it
have
for
another
longer,
China here, right? Excuse me.
yeah, they they don't want to crater the launch pad like they did after IFT1. And that is also why SpaceX is updating the pad for the launch site 2 that's just like right around the corner. Um, so they are updating the pad for that, but yeah, it's only going to be a couple seconds because any more than that will not be good. And yeah, having a rocket that is this powerful firing at what is essentially just an upside down shower head that is flat to the ground can cause some problems, and they don't want to damage anything, especially considering this is a test to make sure everything's working. And if they damage it during the test, then they have to
No.
keep working on it.
Yeah.
So
By the way, Jordan, did you get down to Starbase when they had like the first launch and the launch pad was completely like tunnel
Yes.
duct? Did
Well,
you
I
see
mean,
that with your own eyes?
oh yeah, we were on. I was on South Padre Island at Isla Blanca Park, which is the furthest southern tip. And when the rocket started doing weird things, because I'd seen Falcon Heavy, and we're like, should we get in the water? Like, is this safe? Because it just yeah, it didn't look good. It just started tumbling through the air. So but you can still go today and find pieces of the pad in those dunes. Like
Yeah.
it would take me probably 5 minutes, and I could find you several pieces. And so it's pretty cool if you're looking for souvenirs and want to keep cleaning up Boca Chica Beach. Like, just come on down.
not a bad idea.
Next
Sure
time you're
that you
down there, Nathan.
Indeed. You could probably find them on eBay as well. I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure it's frowned upon.
Actually, there's quite a bit of a market on eBay for that stuff, but it also isn't as valuable as you would think. So
yeah, because there's so much of it.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Just a piece of concrete with.
My favorite is the O-ledge, which is special concrete with little pieces of rebar like throughout it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, it's actually really sharp. We have to be careful when you pick it up, but I have a piece. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I picked one up and I was like, whoa, okay. I have soft skin.
Well, I think we should move on now to the next topic, which is actually we showed it a little bit at the start, but we do actually have the tower is stacking.
Hooray. Oh, but that
SpaceX
is not from right now, right? Oh god.
Yeah, this is not right now. This was
I was like, okay.
this was yesterday. it was later in the afternoon. You can kind of see the sun's setting a little bit.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
this is sped up, so it's not
Yeah.
they are fast, but not that fast.
yeah. So SpaceX is pretty fast, but yeah, incorrect. They are not that fast. And we were also able to get some pictures from our photographer.
Yeah.
So our photographer's actually out at Starbase taking brand new pictures right now. So you can see in the picture we did mention that that they actually have a second tower segment over at Starbase,
In this
and
picture?
not in this picture.
Okay. I
So
was like, what is it?
we mentioned it whenever we had the live stream up. Of course, if you want to see that, you can go check out our 24/7 stream. It's always up. You can always just check it out, see the latest stuff that's happening there. And our photographer is also out taking pictures right now. And if you want
John.
those, our amazing photographer John, he's out there uh, in the mosquitoes, in the sun, in the
There's actually
humidity,
lightning right now.
Ooh. Oh, he
in the
loves
lightning.
that. Yeah. He loves
So
taking lightning pictures at Starbase. It's so awesome.
yeah. So thank you, photographer John, for doing that for us. You rock. And if you want those pictures, the moment they come out and the moment we get them, essentially, as soon as we get them, you get them too. And if you want to see them, be sure to sign up to our Patreon or become a channel member, and you'll get those as soon as we get them. And
And
this is
a
just
fun
like a preview.
Yeah. And a fun fact, actually, John took a lightning picture. Oh, when was it? A while back, couple of weeks, I think. And this picture made it actually to Starbase because some people that worked there saw it and they were like, John, I gotta have the picture. So they got it. If you want to look at it, I think we have it on display. Maybe I should check that. So, but it is a
I believe
fantastic
we do,
picture.
yeah.
We ordered it too. It was like, yes, we
It is
need that.
it's one of my backgrounds.
Yeah,
Actually,
exactly.
quite a few of his photos are my background.
Yeah.
Yep, me too.
He's
so
an
nice.
amazing photographer, and
Yeah.
if you want those pictures in the highest quality possible, 4K, and if you want to see, because some of them also don't make it into the videos themselves because maybe you don't find a chance to talk about it. Like we'll try and fit those really nice pictures in as best we can, but sometimes they just don't make it. So for example, with that lightning shot, I believe that was able to make it into the photo, but
Oh yeah,
he
multiple times.
loves yeah, but he, like she said, he loves taking lightning shots and just beautiful like sunrise and sunset shots, and most of the times those might not make it into a video, but if you want to see those, we release those daily to, or whenever our John is able to go out, we'll release those to our channel members and patrons.
So and I did not look into the chat, by the way. So did some of you make it already down to Starbase, or are you planning on going there yourself, maybe for the next launch?
Yeah, actually, a lot of my friends are reaching out to me about maybe coming down for this upcoming launch because they've heard about the tower catch.
Yeah.
And
I'm
yeah,
going.
Yeah.
I know that
awesome.
much.
Probably not going. I don't know. I want to go.
Come on, you can make it happen.
Yeah.
We can carpool.
Well, you do have kids.
Yeah. And I don't want them to climb the second tower because, I mean, who knows? Maybe for the next Starship test launch, that tower can be up.
That's
Oh,
true.
don't give anyone any ideas. You never know who's
Especially-
watching.
Especially with how fast it's been going up. We'll have to see how long it takes before they get that second tower segment on top of the first one, but I'd say it's probably not going to be too long, especially considering they already rolled it to the pad so
Did-
soon after the first one was stacked.
Now we talked so much about the second part being at the pad. Can you show us the second part being at the pad, please? We want to see it now.
I do need to pull up our camera so we can
Yes,
pop
please.
on over to Lone Palm. That will.
Because
that wants to
everybody is
load.
like, he's saying the second part is there, but no.
Mm.
Where's the section?
Oh,
It really is an incredible time if you think about it, because this kind of social media
there we go.
internet age allows us to have this instant coverage of these kind of things, and
Yeah.
where a lot of your patrons are actually getting faster updates than probably some of the higher ups at SpaceX even, because which is crazy to think about.
I heard that many people at Starbase not only watch our live cameras, but from all the other live cameras that are out there too, to check on the progress or see what's going on where.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet it's a great way to keep tabs, especially to
Yeah.
see like how the progress is going. It's like it's a pretty good idea. Just use the resources that are there.
So we have the crane still attached. Is section 1 already like safely secured, or?
Um, where it's hard to tell from the pictures. We do have some closer photos, so let me actually switch back to that. So we can see here
Oh yeah.
that they do have it stacked, but you can basically see. Yeah, this. Thank you to our photographer John once again. He
Yeah.
gets these amazing photos and lets us at very high qualities, and you can basically see they do have a few bolts in there, but they're not. It's not fully secured. Essentially, most of these are just for alignment. What's in there now, you can kind of see some stuff hanging off there, and that's basically just to keep it held down, just to be sure. Like there's some more, but those are temporary, and so they do not have it bolted in yet. And you can also see a few bolts just missing across that. They do also have to connect. You can kind of see here the pipes are just kind of
Yeah.
dangling there. Uh,
Oh,
we'll
those
have to.
two. Yeah, the big ones
Yeah,
on the left side too, right? Oh,
yeah,
you can see it like.
yeah.
Yeah. So they probably had to run to Home Depot and get some more bolts.
Oh, that poor Home Depot.
Yeah.
No, I wonder too if they're utilizing the tower section to secure the crane because of this weather, and they don't want to detach it till they're ready to attach to that next section. That's a
Yeah.
guess. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
so
Well,
otherwise that's just swaying in the wind.
yeah. Well, the crane is very large. I mean, you can kind of see the width here.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to actually grasp the scale of this crane, especially because it's not at its full height yet. Um, but it is very large. The We can look back over. Yeah, it is a very large crane. The Yeah,
There we go.
it's
Yeah.
big.
That's
Thank
beautiful.
you also to our camera operator. You can't hear stuff on the back end, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Uh, Thank you to him for helping us out with some of the stuff on the back end. And you can,
Yeah.
it's even with that, that is not even the full height yet because they plan on extending it further. We know that due to some FAA documents that SpaceX released.
So it will be bigger than the first tower, but not a lot, right?
Yeah, so right now it's still, we know that it will be roughly like just a couple meters taller than the first tower. But Musk has also stated that it will be tall enough for V2 ships and it'll be like significantly taller. But we've seen no sign of that, so we think maybe he was just talking about it would be a couple meters taller, and maybe the V2 ships are a little, like they're not too much taller than the V1s, because we know based off a lot of the stuff SpaceX has said that it'll basically be the V3s that will be significantly taller
Ooh.
essentially. Yeah. It is it's a very large crane, and even with our cameras it's hard to really give scale to it, but those tracks, like you could probably, it's probably, each of those tracks is probably about the height of two people. Maybe
Yeah,
one and a half.
do we have any people on there right now?
Yeah.
Tiny
I mean,
people?
you honestly, they're so, it's so far away you probably wouldn't even be able to see them. That's
Yeah.
that's the scale that SpaceX is working at.
And I see
Yeah,
in the chat, can we get Nathan a little louder in the stream?
Oh, I could also just move a little closer to my mic. There we go.
I
Yeah.
plan to definitely make it out there once they do the full height of that yellow crane, because it doesn't do it justice, the camera views. Once
And
you're there in person, it's enormous.
oh yeah, and the crane is also supposed to be larger than
Live.
Tower One itself.
Yeah.
There we go.
Uh,
Hopefully, y'all should be able to hear me a little better now.
on every time I see Hoppy, I'm like amazed. I
That
don't know
little hoppy.
about yeah, don't know about you guys, but it's such an iconic monument of what's
Yeah.
happening here, how it all started, and that it just worked out. And then we had a second hobby from Stokespace, right? I mean, hey.
Yep, just recently.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
hope they never move that hoppy. You know, it's
Oh,
kind of
me
special.
too. If I ever see bulldozers going towards it, I'm just gonna like drive over there as fast
Start
as
a
possible and
protest.
just protest, just like glue my hand to it or something. It's
Yeah.
like they are not touching my hobby.
And then it was so rough for, I think it was the first launch also,
Oh
right?
yeah.
With all the cameras in front, and then it got stripped.
Yeah. Hoppy has seen so much, and it will hopefully see so much more. Hopefully, none of them as energetic and eventful as IFT1's Concrete Tornado. But
Well, this next
yeah,
one, you never know.
yeah. They're trying to catch a booster with giant robotic chopsticks, so
Yeah.
there's always the possibility. All right, well,
I always
let's
have to say it lands. It lands.
All right. The next thing we're actually going to be talking about is, so we've talked about the tower segments over here at the launch complex, but that's
Nice.
not even the only tower news. They have had three big tower stories essentially in the past 2 days, which is the stacking of the first segment, the movement of the second segment, and now we also have, let's move over to Arrakis. You can see over here at the build site, they have a it's kind of hard to tell, but there is another segment there because
Yeah.
they
There.
finally have started moving the segments from the port over. Uh, we'll we'll see how long it takes them to move the rest. They could also be using these road closures that they have listed
Yeah.
to move segments from the port over to Sanchez, because of course they do need to move the last tower segment, and then they also have both both chopstick arms and the chopstick carriage, so they need to move a lot essentially.
So are
They
those
can do
the
some in one
T-Rex
go.
chopsticks from Cape Canaveral, or are there other
Yeah.
chopsticks? They are the
So
shorter ones.
yes.
So
So
small.
all of SpaceX actually is essentially updated the design completely by the looks of it. So the new chopsticks are all basically all the new chopsticks from here on out are going to be a lot shorter. So these ones are longer because SpaceX essentially wanted to test more or wanted more safety margins essentially,
Yeah.
but they realized very quickly, and we've seen this in footage of them testing it and also even of the recent B14.1 tests, that they wiggle a lot. And they aren't the most precise because they are just so large. And especially because they're so long, they have a much higher, essentially, moment of inertia further out, which essentially means they're going to keep moving even when they shouldn't.
Yeah,
And
they'll
that's
have a lot of feedback.
Yeah, it's very hard to manage things like that. SpaceX seems to have found some workarounds for the first catch, but essentially they just want shorter arms because they also feel like they're gonna be able to land on shorter arms.
So here comes my question. I know we're gonna cover this topic in a short while. We have seen the last booster landing from, I think it was Turksat, right? Falcon 9 booster. No,
Yes.
no Starship booster. Sorry,
Yeah.
no excitement.
Not yet.
And it was pretty much off center. So would
Yeah.
that still have been in the margin if we translate that to Starship and the T-Rex arms?
It actually, I believe it would be because so
The
so far,
circle.
yeah, so far we've seen. We should actually really make another diagram of essentially how big the landing zone of the boosters is. So the boosters also have a lot more control than Falcon 9. So keep in mind the boosters can hover, where Falcon 9 has to just light its
Yeah.
engines at the exact perfect moment. So the booster can be more precise, but
Mm-hmm.
also the chopstick arms, essentially the booster just needs to land within the range of the chopstick arms. If the chopstick arms, like say the booster lands, oh, actually I can zoom my camera out a
This
little
is
bit
making
so
me
you don't
I
have to
really
see
would
it anymore.
hungry.
Okay.
I would give you like my hands, and then you can
Yeah.
land it between them.
Yeah. So
Only have to
essentially,
ship you.
if the chopsticks are like that and the booster comes in say, very off center and lands just near the end of one of the chopsticks, they can just close one of them and catch the booster. So it essentially gives them all that area to catch the booster. So it might not seem like a lot, and it might seem like SpaceX needs to get it dead on center, but essentially they have as wide as those arms can go and as far as those arms can go to land the booster. And the actual landing area, especially for the first tower, is larger than the drone ships. So SpaceX has never
Really?
essentially missed a drone ship. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, the size of these things, which is
Like
why SpaceX shrank them.
since they started landing and not missing the,
Yeah.
the
Well,
drone ship.
okay, so they have missed in the past, but it was never due to guidance or like soft like essentially never due to guidance or software malfunctions or there being too much wind to land. It was always hardware malfunctions. So essentially one of them had a actually this has happened a few times. Grid fins didn't quite work properly, or the engine ran out of gimbal because they use hydraulics and can run out of hydraulic fluid. This has happened a few times, especially on the earlier landings. This happens much less frequently now, and it's likely the launch that was a little off center had some weird factor. Like even the GPS being a little off can affect the landing quite a bit. And
Okay,
things
while
like
we're talking about that, can we pull up a picture? Do you have one for us
of
of the booster, like the misaligned booster?
oh, I actually do not have one pulled up.
Oh no! Yeah, our
Okay.
back end guy Jonathan is getting one.
Okay. Yeah, and he'll just send that over to me, and I can pull that up real quick.
Thank you. Because I'm like thinking about it, like
I've just been thinking about Chinese food this whole time.
yeah, and the fun thing, I was thinking about that too, and that I'm better
Sponsorship.
able to control the chopsticks the further like in front I
yeah.
use them.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah,
can
the
pick
longer
up.
ones are harder to use.
Oh yeah, it's like having a 15-foot long chopstick is going to be a little difficult to control versus the tiny little ones you get at a restaurant. Yeah. So SpaceX wanted to shrink them down a little bit, and yes, it does shrink the overall landing pad. But okay, here we go. So let me pull up that photo.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. I would guess Felix then. Who sent it? Who was
That
it?
would be Felix, yes. So over here.
Wow. Whole team
Yeah, he's so
today.
fast.
Oh, quick! I accidentally gave a quick sneak peek of what's going on in the. Oh wait, I don't have it pulled up yet.
Yeah,
So y'all
that's
didn't
the
get the sneak
reason
peek.
why
Okay.
I'm sitting here because he's just so fast and all the back end. Oh yeah,
So
that is from Jerry
Oh.
Pike, right? He is so
yes.
awesome. He does drone footage out there. Oh yeah, and it's still in the in the outer circle, so that is
Yeah.
That's interesting.
wow.
Yeah.
That is a great.
But it does look like in this case it was actually due to weather and wind. So it seems like SpaceX is also trying to push the envelope a little bit with higher wind speeds because they can essentially. Most, like basically every other rocket company throws away their boosters. SpaceX is landing them so they can, because it's not mission critical and it's after they've already deployed the payload, essentially they can test things because if they lose a booster, it's not too big a deal. So if there's higher wind speed and say there's a 50-50 chance that they might not get back the booster, but it's an important payload that needs to get launched sooner, SpaceX could be like, all right, let's see how we can do with higher wind speeds. So, and SpaceX will essentially know when they'll know when they can and can't land a super heavy booster. And also, once again, keep in mind the Falcon 9 has to light its engines at the exact moment, and especially once it's closer to the ground, it has very little control over where it is in relative to the drone ship. So with the booster able to hover for a super heavy, it can just hover and then just move around a little bit if it needs to,
We'll
assuming it
see.
has enough fuel, which, especially for these early launches, where they're not really going to have a payload. SpaceX is going to be testing it with a lot of fuel, and they'll get it very fine-tuned by the time they're essentially landing it similar to a Falcon 9.
Do you really think they're gonna test it with a lot of fuel? Because what comes into my mind
Oh,
is,
okay, that's yeah,
if it goes wrong and they have so
that's
much fuel
true.
in there, then
Okay,
The
well,
birds. Think of the
the
birds.
yeah,
it is
the
okay.
tower.
It might be a lot of fuel for 3 engines, because that's the other thing. Starship is so heavy that it can hover with 3 engines lit. And
Super
having those 3
heavy.
engines lit takes super heavy. Takes quite a lot less fuel than running 33 engines. So it will still be a significant, or it could still be a significant amount of fuel, but say they ran 3 of those engines for 10 seconds, that would take as much fuel as running all of its engines for 1 second. It is a very large difference, and that's assuming full throttle, which they definitely would not be. So it could be closer to like 20 seconds, equals 1 second of a full burn for the booster. So it is, it they could have extra margin to where they can hover the booster for a decent amount of time without having too much extra fuel, and it might not be a problem. Hopefully.
We're gonna find out. That's what I'm
Yeah,
thinking
we're
the
gonna
whole
find out.
time. We'll know.
Yeah.
4 weeks. Oh, what was the last Elon estimate for the next flight?
Yeah, roughly. We know it's
Yeah,
probably next month is essentially the goal. So August.
yeah,
Yay,
August
August
19th.
launch. All right,
Gonna be
okay,
nice.
so there we go. All right. So that is the tower segment. Let's actually move over to the ships. So we've been talking about the boosters a
Yeah.
lot, but the star of the show, especially for the last flight, was of course Ship 29. Whenever these Fens decided they wanted to disappear a little bit. Of course, it still worked. The craziness that was Flight 4 still happened, and it was still able to land, but it did have quite a significant amount of damage. I mean, it was basically missing one of its fins by the end of it.
Yeah.
So essentially, SpaceX has been upgrading the heat shield tiles, and we have seen a lot of progress recently. And you can see this is the front flap. You can essentially see they
The
have,
hinge.
yeah, the hinge.
The hinge. And
Uh,
that black, is that the new felt that they put on
yeah, so
the
this is
left side?
essentially an
Hmm.
ablative material. It's kind of hard to tell. Like it's essentially like it's predicted at least to be a silicon felt that's more of that has essentially like ablative components mixed in with the silicon. It's hard to tell exactly what it is because SpaceX doesn't publish it, and also there are certain restrictions around
Yeah.
heat shields and what information you can say around heat shields or give
I,
out around heat shields. So
I think he
we
said
may never
something
know.
in the interview with Elon, yeah. Elon with Tim Dodd, right? I
Yes.
think they had like a little bit of talk about that.
Yeah, he did mention that it is like a silicon felt ablative. So we do
Yeah.
know at least that much, that it does have
Yeah.
silicon components, which is similar to what they actually already have installed underneath, which is it looks similar to this white material, but we know that this is also a bit different from what SpaceX has been installing.
Yeah, what's going
And
on there? Wait. That looks much different. Like, are
yeah,
they? What are
Well, I
they
know
doing?
he said in the interview they were messing with the spacing of the tiles.
They're
yeah.
Maybe that.
messing with it.
So
Yeah, like
that's
what's the best amount of gap between them as they expand and contract?
yeah. So they might have found a good solution here. You can what it looks like they're doing at least, excuse me, is they're taking at least what it appears they're doing is they're taking the white silicon felt that they've been installing previously. um it's kind of, you can't really see it anymore other than actually this appears to be in this section.
And
um
what I
but
found
it's
interesting is that the one guy, was it a video or a picture too? He was manually like cutting the edges with scissors, and then I see this, and I was wondering like how many of those tile felts are you actually cutting with scissors by hand? Don't you have a
Yeah.
robot for that?
Nope. All by hand. And
Yeah.
it makes sense because the way SpaceX wants to do things, especially early on in the development of um, essentially new processes and new designs, is to make things as cheaply and quickly as possible. And building a full machine to mass produce something is going to be relatively slow and expensive just for a test article that might not even
Yeah.
end up working. Um, so this
So
is
try it
the
out,
yeah.
and then if it works, we might get a robot.
Build it, break it, fix it. That's essentially what SpaceX does. And you can see basically the idea behind this is it appears they're basically adding individual silicon felts to each piece, and they're essentially filling the gaps with them as well. And we'll see if it works. We'll see how everything pans out for them. So this is definitely an interesting test.
So,
Oh,
is it just on the flaps, or was that like on the lower part of the ship itself? No, like where's the flap there?
yeah. So the flap,
Left.
yeah. So this is the flap. You can kind of see it
Oh yeah.
hasn't been covered in tiles just yet.
Okay.
And this is essentially the hinge
Yeah.
arrow shell. I'm forgetting the exact term for it, but essentially it connects it essentially acts as the barrier and the connection between the fin and the body of the vehicle, because the body of the vehicle is a bit of an odd geometry, so they need to have this sticking out a little bit, or they need to have the fin sticking out a little bit, and then essentially that piece that we can see the felt being added to essentially covers the components that properly connect the fin and actuate the fin to the body. So it acts as like a shield. And that's essentially the whole point of this area. So it's likely the stuff they're adding here is designed to protect it. And it's also possible that this is the region that failed, because we saw that a region around here, most of us thought that it was this
In
area.
between the flames and all the burning going on and the
Yeah,
plasma. Okay.
correct. Yeah. So most of us thought that this might be the area that failed, but it is also possible that the area here failed too, which is why SpaceX is focusing
Yeah.
quite a bit of effort around there.
So, but this is still the old flap, right? Because we've seen new shape
Correct.
laying around.
Yes. So we have
Okay.
seen the newer shapes. We know that it's going to be essentially more angular, and they also plan on moving it back a bit. So in the
Mm.
future, they might not even need this section because this part
Hinges are
won't.
further out.
Yeah. So it might not even need heat shielding. It might need like maybe a little bit,
At
but
all? Oh no, you just mean the hinge part.
yeah, the hinge. The flap
Oh,
itself will
okay.
still need a heat shield because it
Okay.
still needs to maneuver. Although the heat shield for the flap might actually be quite a bit less, especially because especially sorry, why do I especially but
Oh, I
because
got you.
uh
Thank you for explaining this. Is this so? I know it is a
yeah,
lot. I ask a lot of question. I just really want to know.
but essentially the flap is out of the airflow
Okay.
for most of re-entry, so they might not even need a very beefy heat shield on the forward flaps. However, the aft flaps, which as you can see have had quite a bit done,
F means like
need
lower part right here,
yeah.
right?
So
Yeah,
essentially
thank you.
what we were looking at before is the top, and now this is the bottom flaps. And you can see there has been quite a bit of work done. This was essentially just a bunch of metal pins, and it appears SpaceX has a slightly different application process than other places here. So for most tiles, it has the pins, or not, basically the pin connection points, which is essentially like a metal rod built into the tile themselves, and then you just click the whole tile onto the pins. We
Like
actually
this?
Yes.
yes, so like that. And you can basically see those pins hook up to the tile. But we saw SpaceX essentially installing those metal bars before the tile themselves. So it does seem to be a bit of a different application process. And this might have another thing to do with the tile gap, because having the perhaps like they added those to give it a little bit more wiggle room. So when they expand, they can just move out of the way as opposed to cracking. This is the prototyping phase, so there could be quite a few things that SpaceX is changing all around the vehicle, because essentially they know it can survive re-entry now. They know that the concept works. They saw that on the last flight.
Yeah, even with the old heat shield. And I think Grandpa Joe, he was very active on X, as we call it these days. And I think he calculated how much time the oh, what's the word again? The metal. No, what would you call it? The steel.
Stainless.
Stainless steel, exactly. 304L, right? Would be able to sustain. I mean, to go through the plasma without falling apart. I think it was like 3 minutes. Does anybody in the chat know? Like, did you see these posts and these calculations? Like, how much time was it actually? Does
We need to
anyone
see
know?
them try to put a Cybertruck through re-entry.
Oh yeah. Don't get them
I
any
would love
ideas.
that. Honestly, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I mean, they already put a Roadster on the top of a Falcon Heavy, so why not put a
Why not a
Cybertruck on the top
Cybertruck?
of a
Yeah.
stainless steel rocket?
Well, these scales always remind me of more of a dragon than the real dragon does, you know. So I feel like they got
Oh,
their
yeah.
names mixed up with the ships.
Just a little bit.
I like Starship.
Also, I think I'm just gonna start calling Booster 11, Booster 12.
Which one are you talking
Which one's on
about?
the next flight? The
I
one
think
that's
it's
supposed to
12.
land. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I get my boosters mixed up sometimes. But yes,
My
Booster
boosters, yeah.
This is why I want to give him a nickname. So Booster 12 is officially Godzilla because it's gonna fight Mechagodzilla.
Oh yes,
All in
Ooh.
favor.
like it.
So, yeah. And we haven't been able to see too much progress on Booster 13, which is or any of the other boosters which are currently in the Mega Bay, Mega Bay 1, that is.
Right? Mega
But
Bay 1.
yeah, unfortunately they keep it closed.
Yeah, things are going to get a lot more private around Starbase, but still much better than any other company or even the Cape. So grateful
Yeah.
for that.
When I
Yeah.
drive by the huge Blue Origin buildings, when I go to the Kennedy Space Center, it's like so big. There's so much, and they probably have so much in there, but you can't see anything because it's all behind these walls. And I'd like to peek in there.
Yeah, and it's just wild to think all they've accomplished so far has mostly been built outdoors in these elements of, you know,
Yeah.
110 degrees, mosquitoes, dust, salt air, ocean. It's just wild.
Yeah.
So
So when is talking about Blue Origin? I think they have an coming static fire as well, right? We can't forget about that.
Yes. So I don't actually have any pictures for it because Blue
Yeah.
Origin doesn't usually like providing pictures. But there are some talks going around, and most of the time this is just rumors essentially, because Blue Origin provides almost no information. But from what we've heard from our photographer John at Starbase or
Hey, at the camp.
at Cape Canaveral, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, not confusing at all to have both of our photographers named John.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can actually pull up real quick. We can pull up our other cam. So,
Oh yeah.
perfect timing! Right as they're lifting a booster off the drone, off one of the drone ships.
Oh,
So
they
this is
are.
over at Cape Canaveral, but essentially, Blue Origin.
Where is it? Where is it?
This
Word.
is where's
We
wait what?
we're still looking at the ship, right?
Oh no, it should be on the
Oh, okay.
yeah yeah
It's too
okay,
late.
but
Hmm.
essentially we have uh some rumors going around that Blue Origin is going to be testing their second stage, because we've already seen that they have both the engines installed and everything looks ready, but it should be, I believe the last word was around like late this month, like maybe a week before the end of the month. So coming up pretty soon.
1 to 2 weeks. So
Yeah, about 1 to 2 weeks away.
Mhm.
Um,
I'd love to go
Which-
out there with a boat and then film it.
yeah, I'm pretty sure Blue Origin would be mad at you for that. They
I
don't
don't
like
think
it.
so.
I'm pretty sure Blue Origin would be mad at you if you even filmed the launch of New Glenn at this point.
No, I think it's wonderful. I mean, especially all the engineers that are working on the rocket. I mean,
Yeah, I know a
if
few of
if
them.
we can exactly, if we can kind of experience and party this with them together, this is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, for how many years did they work on this now? So fingers crossed that everything goes well.
Honestly, I don't even think we know how many years they've been working on it, because we essentially only heard about it. Like, we don't really know how long they'd been working on it before they announced the actual design and everything,
Yeah.
which wasn't too long ago comparatively, from announcement to fully built. They get stuff done pretty fast after an announcement. Well, okay, they get stuff done on schedule most of the time after an announcement, because they're usually pretty good at that. New Glenn has been delayed a little bit, but not by much compared to other rockets. And you
It,
look at SLS, it's basically right on time.
yeah. So is it still on the pad, New Glenn? I
Uh,
saw it earlier when I was going on the beach,
I
not
believe
earlier, a
so.
couple of
Yeah,
days ago. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I
impressive.
yeah. I don't.
Finally, we see something.
Yeah, it should be on the pad now.
And I think we have like 8 minutes left. So are we
Oh,
gonna talk about the latest, like last night's Starlink launch?
yeah. So
RUD.
there's one quick thing I want to talk about at one more just like 2-minute segment at Starbase, because we actually have some work over at Massey's real quick. So I'll just talk about that real quick. We don't know too much about it, but I do want to bring it up because it's essentially brand new. We can see
It gets
over
taller
here.
too. Like,
Yeah, everything's getting taller at Starbase.
yeah.
You can
Yes.
see here they've essentially been they finally started work on the third uh,
Section.
section of the Can Crusher 2.0. We're still trying to figure out exactly what this thing is supposed to do, because it's weird. We've got some theories, but
Do
essentially
we have
most of it's a
more
shot in the dark.
sections? Do we have more sections laying around? So can we anticipate like a fourth or a fifth or a sixth? So
We'd need to do a flyover to find out, but from what we can
okay.
see, and you can see on the top of here, this is supposed to be the top section, which goes up here, and you can see it looks almost identical. So
The
from the
top
looks of it, this is the top section of the third section, essentially. We haven't, as of
Oh,
our
it's still
last flyover, we haven't been able to see. Actually, let me see if I have a closer picture. Yeah.
yeah, Jordan,
S-
you were at the flyover, right?
I was,
Did
yes.
you notice these things?
I didn't see any extra rings that I can recall that were being staged, but
Yeah.
there is like a few tent structures over there, so it could just be in hiding.
Yeah. But as far as we know, the top of the other section, it looks like it's actually like it could have another section on top, because it doesn't appear to have any new things that would prevent it from having another section on top, and it looks
Yeah,
almost identical to the previous ones.
so
And you can see
Jordan,
that here.
would you like to jump into the helicopter again for us?
Please
Absolutely,
do.
I'm always
All right.
ready.
Let me call Jackson. We get you up there in no time.
Yeah. And
Yeah, let's go.
you can see here, because these are the lifting points essentially. So these are what the crane hooks up to, but these are essentially guide pins. So oftentimes when you're like stacking something, you want to have essentially as big an area as possible to fit that thing in the right location. Um, and having these, you can see they're not for lifting. So having these on this section would essentially imply, hey, they're most likely going to have another section on top. So we know at the very least, it will likely be one ring taller. Other than that, we haven't seen any signs. And yeah, that concludes our Starbase section.
Yeah.
And the next thing, real quick, I did want to bring up.
We don't have time. Please
Okay.
tell us what
It'll be
happened at the
fast.
Starlink launch. Tell
Okay,
us what
This will
happened.
take 2 seconds because it's also extremely important. SpaceX has requested from the FAA that for 25 annual Starship and Super Heavy launches and landings from Boca Chica. This is huge because the last one was like 3 annually.
Oh,
And
really?
you know what?
It
Yeah.
was a little. I think it was like 3 to 5, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. But it was basically none. It was just enough to essentially last like a year worth of testing. So SpaceX has requested 25 now, and this might also partly be in response to some of the things that are going on at Cape Canaveral between them and Blue Origin and ULA and everyone.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean,
Because
it's a lot of player at the Kennedy Space Center here, so it would be fair if everybody gets a chance to use the launch pads regularly.
oh yeah, and all right, now we can move on
Yeah,
to
finally. So what
Uh-oh.
was happening there?
300 launches and
yeah.
what happened?
So I can just let it play while we're talking about it.
Yes.
And you can kind of see there seems to be a little more activity around the second stage of this Starlink mission, and you can actually see it pretty well. Actually, let me
No, yeah,
hop,
can you move
let me
us
hop my camera
maybe?
on real.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll
Move
hop
me
my
out
camera
too.
off real quick. So you can
What's
see.
that here?
Making
Yeah.
popcorn, it looks like.
Yeah.
It seems like SpaceX did not have the best time with this second stage, and
Whoa.
there
Yeah.
you can really see it, and there goes some of the insulation. It basically just
So
popped.
we've got a lot of ice build up at the insulation. Is the ice causing the insulation to fall off? Oh,
Parts of it, yeah.
what's happening there?
We
Yeah.
we weren't able to see it properly, but what it looks like is it actually the pressure built up so much that it essentially popped at one point, and that's
Okay.
what that little like piece that flapped off there was about. Um,
So do we
and you
have a
can
leak
actually
Oh.
of
see it
some sort? Yeah,
essentially
Oh
there
my
is
goodness.
something leaking out, right?
beautiful. This is not good. If you're an engineer, this is
Yeah.
horrifying.
It looks
Like,
beautiful.
But
so
other than that,
exciting
it is
because
beautiful.
yeah, look at them burning up in the
Yeah. Uh,
jet stream.
and we've actually this is exceedingly rare. As far as I recall, the Falcon 9 has never had an engine malfunction on
And the upper
the
stage.
second stage. And for the previous 2 like full failures that SpaceX has had where they just fully exploded, um
It was
those were
first stage.
yeah, it was first. Actually, I believe one of them might have been second stage, but it was specifically second stage. The second stage is composite overwrap pressure vessels, or COPVs. So those are essentially very high pressure canisters, much higher pressure than even the fuel tanks of the Falcon 9 already is. And those essentially were not built properly and popped, and essentially took the booster with it. Um, and you can see this is a very different failure. This is an actual failure of the Merlin engine, which has an almost perfect track record. The only failures the Merlin engine has really had were very early in development, and then during some landings. Actually, there was one on Ascent that essentially blew up, but that was due to a cleaning error, not the engine itself.
Cleaning error.
Yeah, essentially they left a bunch of cleaning fluid in there, and that
Mama
cleaning
didn't
fluid
double check,
ignited.
huh? Yeah.
Yeah, which goes to show also how like complex engines can be. That a little bit of cleaning fluid in the wrong spot can lead to an engine completely exploding.
So this was
Um,
not cleaning fluid that leaked and completely built up ice around the whole engine
oh, definitely
section.
not.
Yes. Okay, what could have been like
So
what leaked there? What is it?
this
Why?
SpaceX has actually confirmed. I can move over now because it's also nearly near the end of the burn. But SpaceX has essentially said, actually, I do not have their official.
So
Let
what did
me
they
give me
say?
1
Tell
second.
us. Tell
I'm
us.
g- I need 1 second real quick because I need to pull it up.
It's amazing how quick they are to come forward with
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
cars.
Actually, yeah, here it is. And it should be on screen now. Okay, so SpaceX has essentially stated that they're not fully sure, or at least we're not fully sure what happened, but we do know that this was a full liquid oxygen leak. So
Okay.
essentially, this was propellant that was leaking, which is not good.
No,
The
we've
upper
seen it. Like
Oh,
completely
it did still
ice
deploy the
age.
satellites. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another interesting thing is, so Musk specifically said, let me find the actual tweet from him. Actually, do I have it pulled up? I don't have his tweet pulled up, but I will paraphrase real quick. Essentially, Musk stated that the engine had a rapid unscheduled disassembly. That's
Yeah.
also kind of impressive because they specifically stated they were able to deploy the satellites. Now,
Yeah. A
the
little
engine
prematurely, but still it got out.
yeah, the engine also exploded on relight, which means this first burn, this first burn was able to make it all the way to SECO or second engine cutoff. And you can see there that it made it all the way.
So first burn was perfect, and then we had kind of a leak. I remember that we saw something dangling in front of the camera, so maybe something got loose,
Yeah.
and then there was it. And
Uh,
this basically was wonderful.
yes, the second stage.
Not the not the engine failure, but
Yeah.
this space roundup. I'm gonna be joining you from now on more often because I just love to pick smart people's brains, like Nathan, like Jordan. Maybe I get my husband here. I don't know if you heard of him. His name is Felix.
He's been in the
Yeah.
chat.
Yeah, I've seen. Hi, honey. And yeah, we'll keep you up to date. Tomorrow again, join us at 1 p.m. Starbase
Yes.
time because we have so much going on there. And we might be able to talk a little more about this engine failure. And I see
Yes.
on the list that we did not even cover, like, we had another topic, but
Yeah.
we have that for tomorrow.
And I
Like
could take like 2 seconds.
Firefly delay because we're wrapping
Oh.
this up now. But we're gonna talk about it tomorrow, and
Yeah.
then you get a sneak peek about what to expect.
So we'll
All
talk
right.
about a bunch of space station news tomorrow. So look forward to
Yes.
that.
Plus, of course, Starbase. I mean, as we know, SpaceX. Maybe we have the second section stacked already. Wow, second section stacked tomorrow on Saturday.
Yep.
Thank you
That'd
so
be
much
cool.
for joining me, Nathan, Jordan.
Thanks
I
for
hope-
having me. My first space roundup. That was fun.
Yes.
Next time with camera.
Yes, next time.
All right. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening, day, wherever you're from.
Yes.
And see you again tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.